Hi, and welcome back to A Positive Light. My name is Joni Lane, and I'm your host. We have our show here every Monday at 3 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time on lcmtv.com when you want to watch us. The shows are also archived on my website, apositivelight.com. And there's a little tab up there that has archive shows, which is where I have them all listed with the dates and the subjects next to them. So if you want to catch up on where we're at right now or interested in repeating a show you've already heard, feel free to visit the website and watch one of those archived shows. The music you were listening to is by Sam Houston on his Beyond the Crescent Moon CD. And this is our first time back in 2 weeks. We missed 2 weeks because we were having a lot of fires here in California. In Northern California and Lake County, we've had some amazingly frightening fires that destroyed homes and upset lives. And it was very traumatic for a lot of people. And the smoke is still lingering in the air as the firefighters continue to mop those up. But they do have them under control, and the firefighters we owe a debt of gratitude for and heavy thanks for all of their hard work. And they're continuing to work. So I wanted to mention that because I think they get overlooked a lot for their heroism, and they work really hard, long hours. I am the owner-operator of A Positive Light Meditation Center in Kelseyville, California, and we hold Monday night meditations every week at 7 o'clock, and there's no cost. They're open to the public, and it's donation-based because we are a nonprofit. The second Tuesday of every month, we hold a 12 and Zen at 7 o'clock, which is also no cost, donation-based. And that is based on the traditional AA 12 steps. And along with that, we have 12 steps of Zen practitioner and societal normal. We take a step each month and pair that with a Buddhist koan, which is a story or a parable. And we meditate on the step and the parable and try to deepen our relationship with our steps by seeing what else comes up. It's a very interesting class, and we just held the one for this month last week. We had 7 people and 7 different ideas came up, and it was very educational for all of us to hear what everyone else came up with, because as individuals, we come up with different stories of what the steps mean and what the koan brings to that step. So we all learn a lot from that, and sometimes it's very funny, and we all have a good time. So I invite you out for that. You don't have to be in a recovery program to join us. It's for everyone. There is a step for anyone in any situation. So consider joining us for that. I'd appreciate seeing more people there and sharing this with you. If you're interested in being a sponsor on our show, please contact me at joni@apositivelight.com, or you can contact anyone here at LCM TV. We try to keep our sponsorship cost low as $40 a month, and we'll do a good commercial for you here, and we want to support you as you support us. So consider becoming a sponsor for the show. Also, if you have a positive message you'd like to share with someone, or if you know of someone who has a positive message that you think would fit the show, please let me know so that we could talk about how to put a show together for you. I love having guests on the show and showing different perspectives and insights to people. Let's see. At the Meditation Center, we hold various classes, mostly in meditation, but I'm also a Reiki master teacher, and I teach Reiki classes to students, teach level 1, level 2 Reiki, teacher and master. And I also hold a Reiki healing circle once a month where I give Reiki energy to people. And Reiki energy is very healing, very relaxing, very powerful. All those information can be found on my website, which is positivelight.com. If you're interested in any of those things, let me know. You can reach me through my phone or email. But again, all the information is on the website. I am having a special guest on November 8th, and the class is filling up. So I want to make sure that you realize if you're interested in joining us, and I hope you are, please let me know right away. This is Kevin Griffin, and he is an author of One Breath at a Time, A Burning Desire, Buddhism and the 12-Step Workbook, and now his newest book, Recovering Joy. And in this day-long retreat, we will focus on ways to bring a light heart and clear mind to our recovery program. We will explore ways to cultivate joy using traditional Buddhist mindfulness techniques, 12-step teachings, and contemporary practices for increasing happiness and contentment. And this day-long workshop is only $50. Now you have to understand, Kevin teaches all over the world. He holds workshops all over the world for thousands of people. And he's come to our meditation center before and held a class, and he enjoyed it so much that when his book came out, I sent an email of congratulations to him and invited him to come back for another workshop, and he was excited to say yes. So November 8th at 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. we will be holding this workshop. Please sign up for it ahead of time because space is limited, and I need to know as soon as possible who you are and how I can reserve your space, so please contact me regarding that. I'm really looking forward to Kevin visiting us again. Very insightful, has a great sense of humor, really good advice and insights and suggestions for us. This weekend, I spent an evening with people from my high school for my 40th reunion. And I had spoken to some of the people prior to the class getting together, and some of them were expressing some anxiety about getting together and attending this gathering. And I listened to some of what they were saying, and I heard a lot of, well, I wonder if so-and-so is going to be there, and do they just still dislike me, or is that bully going to be there that used to pick on me? And, you know, some people get really nervous and anxious about reunions because high school is when we're children, and children experience a lot of anxiety for things that at the time seem very important to them. But generally, when you get older, you realize they're not. It was funny to hear people talking about 40 years after high school, they still had some of these anxieties that they were holding on to. And I just kind of listened and wondered, I'm curious too if some people are going to bring that with them or not. You know, we never know what other people have gone through in their life. So it was an interesting group. And honestly, I truly enjoyed myself. I had a very good time. I saw people I had forgotten about. I saw people who I was hoping to see and reconnect with. I connected with people I hadn't really spoken to a whole lot in school. So it was a really enjoyable time for me. And what I saw was, for most of us, as we age, we begin to see how precious life is and how menial other things are, how trivial some things are that we put so much importance on when we're younger. Maybe we've gotten grandchildren now, and you know, during the time in the 40 years, life happens, and sometimes not such good things happen, but sometimes beautiful things happen. So we've had a lot of experiences, some good, some sad, some very joyous. You know, it's just life. But what I also realized too was we lost some of our classmates. They'd passed on. And the picture of our mortality is something that comes up when we see that, when we're forced to look at it. You know, here we are with these people that we went to high school with, shared 4 years of our lives with. And in my case, most of the people I went to school with, I shared 13 years of my life with because we lived in a small town and we grew up together from kindergarten through high school. So we all had a relationship of sorts with each other. And to find that some people had passed on is not unusual, but it was something that we were kind of having to look at. And I think through the years, as we age and we mature and we look at life differently, we finally learn how to be present for the mystery and the tears and the joys of our lives. And we've become more forgiving and more accepting, less judgmental of each other. We've reconciled all the little nitpicky things that we used to put so much importance on. And I think I looked around and I noticed that there were a lot of people wearing glasses. And I thought, it's interesting how we see life as we get older. We need glasses, but we also see very clearly in our minds what's really important. And the symbolism of wearing the glasses and recognizing and becoming clear on what's really important was an interesting connection for me. I thought, that's an interesting connection, how we get older and realize what's important, see clearly what life's all about. So when we get older and we realize these things, we start enjoying the bounty of our lives. And most of us, I noticed, have found our Buddha nature, which is our innate ability to live in our kindness and our compassion and our forgiveness and our loving kindness. So it was very fun in a lot of ways. It was we laughed a lot. We cried a little bit about some things. We really looked at life as what we had at the time, the things we've gone through in that past 40 years, and where we're at now, and how right now, in this moment, is a celebration. And yes, we were together and we were celebrating the moments together, but we could see that the cumulative moments over that period of time had really become something very precious. And I thought, this is a very important moment in my life that I want to take a picture of in my mind and share with other people. And we all know when you're younger and people, the wise old people tell you all these things about this is important, this isn't important. And really we kind of had to learn that on our own. Sometimes these little seeds that get planted of being in the moment and enjoying your life while you can kind of sticks with us. So I held on to that a little bit. When I'm talking about the Buddha nature or our innate ability to be compassionate and non-judgmental and loving and kind toward each other, I'm not talking about Buddhism as a religion. Because Buddhism is more of a science of mind. It's a way of thinking. Buddha spent his life sharing what he learned. He went out seeking enlightenment, realized the harder he sought, the more elusive it became once he sat down and just sat with himself and faced everything within himself. He saw the truth. He saw that we create our own suffering in our minds. And when he saw that and it became very evident to him, he decided this is really very simple and very clear. And I'm going to spend my life sharing this insight with everyone I can, because I want them to stop looking for what's already in front of them, what they already have, and not waste their time. To be in the moments that they already have instead of wasting moments looking for something that's already there. So when I talk about Buddhism, I'm not speaking about a religion. I'm talking about practicing the Dharma or the way. And the Dharma shows a practical path to this happiness and offering ways to cultivate generosity and ethics and loving kindness and wisdom. So it's a gift, and it's a very simple gift, but it's very difficult to practice because we're emotional beings and we get caught up in our emotions. The Bhagavad Gita, I said it right this time, has a statement that I think is very apropos in this instance. It says, as it's translated, it says, act well or act beautifully without attachment to the outcome of your actions. So if you're not attached to what you want to have happen, and you allow life to just unfold in front of you as it is and accept it, you become much more happy because you're not wondering what's this about and what's that about. You're not analyzing things so much. You're just taking the truth for what it is and enjoying the moment of being there. All those moments put together add up to our life. So those are really important moments. Act well, act beautifully, without attachment to the outcome of your actions. And you could take the best parts of what you learn from your meditation and the practice of acceptance, seeing deeply, acting in love, and showing up for your life with a compassionate heart, and you can be the leader of peace. Once you show up with a compassionate heart, and when I say show up, I mean show up for yourself and decide in the morning when you get up, today I'm going to be peaceful. I'm going to act in the way that I want others to act. I'm going to show up for my life in a compassionate state and be the leader of peace. And when you make that commitment just for the one day, you can learn how easy it is, and it becomes a new habit. And in doing that, you are teaching others by example. And you may find it funny to see that people will come up to you and they will ask, they'll be attracted to you. They'll want to know what it is you've got, and you can tell them, I just decided I'm going to show up for my life and be happy and compassionate. And it's that simple. So when you lay it out that simply for people, they can grasp it and they can decide for themselves whether they want to choose to be happy or not too. So when we're talking about suffering, what are we talking about? Mostly we're talking about the attachment to desire, the attachment to what we want the outcome to be. And we're causing ourselves suffering. When we begin to understand that our suffering is caused by our relationship with what is and our inability to accept it, instead of our desire to want things to be the way we want them, we begin to see that the desire is what causes the suffering. So we can either resist the changes that life brings, which causes suffering, because we continue to want the things we want, or we can dance with the changes that life brings to us and celebrate life's changes with joy in our heart. So really it's a choice. You can either resist the changes that life brings you or dance with the changes and enjoy them. And it's not always an easy dance, but when you have that choice, you're actually choosing to do something that turns out to be easier instead of continues to be rough. If resisting change causes nothing but suffering and there is no other outcome, you will always suffer. But when you decide to embrace the changes and dance with them and move with them and enjoy them and see the joy in them, then you're choosing to be happy and not suffer. Let's talk about love and fear for a moment. What is fear? Excuse me. The smoke here really is affecting my sinuses, so I'm hoping I don't sneeze in the middle of this. Well, what is fear? Fear is often the emotion associated with situations or feelings that we don't understand. It's a natural emotion, one that helps us survive. Fear is part of our animal mind. It's prompted by our animal nature. So it's natural, but it's mostly associated with feelings and situations of things we don't understand. What is loving kindness? Loving kindness is also a natural emotion. It's our Buddha nature, one that is expressed through our heart or our spirit from a more ethereal place, our Buddha nature. So when given the choice of how do I want to respond to this, do I want to respond in fear or do I want to respond in love? Obviously we want to respond in love, but sometimes it's not that easy. When our nature takes over and something scares us and fear sets in, it's automatic. It's not something we intend to do, but we're in it. We're in our fear. But when you find yourself in your fear, caught in your fear, you can pause and take a breath and note that, yes, right now I'm feeling anxious and I'm feeling fearful, but I don't need to. I can approach this situation in a loving way. I can disperse anger or anxiety by moving into a loving feeling. So it takes a little practice, but there's always the choice. So it's one of those two emotions that you get to choose with, and you can open that gate to joy. And that's something I think we all seek. We all want to be happy. And so living in fear is obviously going to cause us a lot of anxiety and stress. But living in a loving, compassionate, non-judgmental state can bring a lot of open heart to us. And when we open our heart, others open their hearts because they sense it, they can feel it. So we're going to take a break for a few minutes. I'm going to put a commercial on, advertise LCM TV a little bit and what we have to offer here. And we'll be back in 2 minutes and we'll continue our chat. Thank you.
You're invited to participate in a true multimedia experience coming to a home near you. LCM TV is bringing Lake County into the new millennium with news, live broadcast, information, music, talk shows, and local programming, all streaming in high definition online and soon to be on your Roku box. Join us at lcm-tv.com or be a part of our studio audience. You can also watch the shows at lakecomagazine.com as we provide programming to inform, enlighten, and maybe even enrage you. On Lake County Magazine Talk Show with Terry and Pete the Tax Guy, Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Joni Lane brings a positive light to you every Monday at 3 p.m. Pasha Space brings an international flair as they discuss ecological, health, and social issues in Haiti with people around the world. End up your week with positive, conscious sounds on Saturday at 9 a.m. with Sister T on the Bridge. This show is also simulcast on KMEC 105.1 FM in Ukiah. Our latest show, LCM TV News, is brought to you live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at noon, featuring national, regional, and local news, weather, and sports. We have it all here for you on your local TV station, LCM TV. Join us online and soon on Roku, giving you access to all the best Lake County has to offer. We are LCMTV.com, your multimedia connection. Tune in for the fun. It's live TV at its best.
Hi, and welcome back again to A Positive Light. I'm your host, Joni Lane, and we were talking about fear and love and our choices in those two emotions. In mindfulness meditation, we can learn to be mindful of our emotions, how we're holding emotions in our body, how we can relax and let go of anxiety and tension. Mindfulness can teach us many things, and practicing mindfulness is a very important part of learning how to decide what we want in our life and what we want to let go of. And I think most of us want to learn how to really enjoy life, to take each moment and really savor it. And it's very easily said, but often very difficult to do. When we apply mindfulness to certain situations, we learn to use mindfulness in different ways. For example, if we are being mindful of fear, and we're meditating and we're thinking, okay, I've had these specific instances where I felt fear. And you could sit and kind of look at that. And when you invite that in with a open, spacious heart, and just look at it for what it is, don't make more of it. Don't make a story up in your head about it, which is something we tend to do. But just look at what it really is and invite it in and sit with it and notice, where does it come from? How does it feel in our bodies? How does it feel in the pit of our stomach, in our shoulders, in our jaw? Maybe we have a lot of headaches and we've noticed that when I relax, my headaches go away. Sometimes fear triggers things that we don't even know we're reacting to physically. But when you learn to sit with mindfulness and fear, you can actually make fear a friend. You can embrace fear and say, you know what? I know you're a part of me. I know it's a natural instinct. I know that it's okay to have fear. But I don't want you to rule my life. I want you to be my friend and be there when I need you. But I don't want you to take over my life. And when you find yourself sitting in a mindfulness situation with fear and your mind is open and accepting and looking at the truth of what it really is, part of your natural animal nature, it's not a judgment, and we don't need to be beating ourselves up about having fear in our lives. We just need to look at fear as a natural phenomenon that happens. And we don't need to let it become more. We don't need to let it become the big beast that it can become when it starts ruling our lives. So mindfulness in this instance can teach us how to look at the truth of what fear is and not make it more than it is. When we're talking about mindfulness and suffering, you can also say, I want to make friends with suffering. The suffering alone is many things, and it stems from many things, but mostly it stems from our desire to want something we don't have, or our desire to have an outcome that we've already planned for. So, for instance, when I'm talking about this reunion that I just had, it sounded like some of the people I was talking to prior to the gathering were very concerned about the fears they were building in their mind, things that hadn't happened and may not happen, but they were really wasting a lot of their precious moments on things that hadn't happened. This story they were building in their mind, I'm sure they were based on real things that did happen when they were younger. But they had an expectation or a fear. As some of the people there were saying, I can't wait to get there because I'm going to see so-and-so and we're going to talk about these things and we're going to have the best time. And I don't know, but perhaps when they got there, that person wasn't there, or if they were, they didn't talk about those things, and maybe they didn't have the time that this person had preconceived. So the desire was already there. The notion that something was going to happen in a certain way was already there. So your chances of becoming disappointed are pretty big when you set yourself up to, oh, this is how it's going to be. Now, we don't have any control over other people, places, or things. And we can try to sway a situation to go a certain way by being loving and kind and compassionate. But when you go into a situation, whether it's a reunion or a church gathering or just a party at your neighbor's house, and you anticipate that this is how it's going to be, and it doesn't go that way, then you're going to be more disappointed than if you go in with an open heart and an open mind and just say, you know what, I hope we have a good time, let's see what happens. So you're actually setting yourself up to be open for good energy and having a good time, but you're not planning on things to happen a certain way. So you won't be disappointed if they don't go your way. Then again, if they do, that much the better, right? So it's more joyful when it does go the way you planned it. So when you're practicing meditation, and whether it's mindfulness meditation or loving kindness meditation or insight meditation, you're looking at the truth of life and not the truth you want, the truth of life and the joys and the tears, the sorrows, the beauty, the death that we experience in our lives. All of that can be beautiful because it's all part of life, but you're approaching it with an open heart and an open mind and acceptance. Acceptance for life for what it is and not for what you want it to be. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't make plans, because in order to get through the day, we, for the most part, have to pay the bills and learn how to deal with people that are difficult and take care of responsibilities. So there is always some planning involved. And we're always planning, hoping in a way that things are going to go well. But if you set hope aside and just plan for the event and approach it with a loving, open heart, for whatever happens, be open to the good and the tears, I think it's easier to see the joy in what we might consider the negative. Because sometimes it's happy and sometimes it's sad, but it's all good. The lessons we learn are all good, whether they're difficult or not. So by practicing the task of mindfulness, I like to say the task of mindfulness because it's a practice. And when you practice the task of mindfulness, you're learning to observe the interconnectedness between us all. We can begin to understand others by seeing into their eyes, seeing beyond the judgments, seeing deeply into the people they are. There are some people that I've worked with over the years in prisons, in institutions, that have gone through some trauma and sometimes abuse, and there's gangs and there's a heavy expectation laid on them sometimes. So sometimes there's a lot of fear and anger involved in these people. And I think, yes, there is. And yes, I need to be safe and I need to be wary of people with anger that are going to direct it at me. But I also know that when I look at someone and I look deeply into who they are and I see beyond the rough exterior that they're trying to portray, when I look into their eyes and I see into their heart and I see that person that's the same as you and me, that one that's deep inside of them, and I talk to that person, that's the person who talks back to me. But it takes an effort, because society teaches us to be really afraid of a lot of people with tattoos and piercings and strange colored hair, like me. But We're all the same underneath all those things. Those are just things that they've put up there, a wall they've created to try to keep people at bay for their own reasons, for their own fears. And they probably have a really good reason to be afraid. I don't know what life gave them. I don't know what they went through. I don't know what they might have made up in their head that made it worse, or not. But I do know that underneath all of that is a human being that cries, that laughs, that enjoys puppies and kittens. You know, there's that person underneath there that really loves all the same things that we all love. And sometimes it's a big secret. They don't want to let anybody know that they're a softie. But they're not a softie, really. It's just that they have a human heart that they hide really well. And if you find someone or meet someone or pass someone on the street, let's say you pass a homeless person on the street. Often we don't make eye connection with them. We don't want to be anywhere near them. It makes us uncomfortable because of a lot of reasons. We don't want to be homeless ourselves. It's something we really fear. We don't understand that person. We don't know if they have a mental illness or if they're violent or not. We don't know a lot of things about people, but we make immediate judgments and assessments based on our fear, which keeps us safe. So if we do that because it's a natural thing, okay. But we don't need to just be there. We can look at our initial reaction and say, oh, okay, I judged this person based on what I think they look like. Now let's look at who they really are. Maybe I can offer to buy them a sandwich. Maybe they're hungry. Often if you just say hi to someone and smile, the person might be usually is very surprised that somebody actually made eye contact with them and said hi and smiled as if they care. If you offer them, are you hungry? Can I get you a sandwich? Can I get you something to eat? Most of the time, if they're hungry, people will say, yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you. And they genuinely appreciate that because they see that you have a genuine nature of really wanting to help. And it's not out of pity, and it's not out of anything other than an open heart. But if you sit down and talk to somebody on a park bench one day, maybe there's a woman who lives in the park and she's sitting on the bench. Maybe you can sit down and talk to her. And not ask her a bunch of personal questions, but maybe you can just ask her how she's doing and where'd you come from, and see if she wants to talk about herself. Often when you show interest in someone, it makes them feel valued enough to stay in this world. There's a lot of people out there that are homeless that have a very difficult time wanting to stay in this world. But if you reach out and just say hello to them and make them feel valued, which they are, it makes all the difference in the world. That one thing might turn everything around for them. They might see themselves as somebody who's worth something and start treating themselves that way. So don't become a codependent and take care of the world, because you can't save the world. But the people you do come into contact with, you can come into contact with an open heart and a loving mind. Often they don't want that. Often they're very closed. But that's okay. That's where they're at. At least you've opened your loving heart to them, and you've done what you need to do as a good, loving human being. It's really difficult sometimes to step out of our fear to get to the point where we'll talk to someone we don't know, approach someone. There is a fine line between safety and living in fear. And yes, we need to be safe in this world. There are people that are not nice. But when we do come into contact with people, whether it's in the grocery store line, maybe the person ahead of you, behind you, somebody needs help opening a door, Sometimes people get scared when you walk up and open their door because they're struggling with it. They think you're going to hurt them. And when you just smile at them, they realize, oh, there are good people in this world. And then they kind of open their hearts a little bit. And maybe next time they see someone struggling, they'll help them. So meditation can help us learn how to look at life for what it is. Look at where we need to draw the line for safety and where we're making the stories up in our mind. Helping us see that we can live in an open, loving heart and allow people to see that love. It's not a vulnerability. It's not a weakness. Well, yes, it is a vulnerability in the sense that it's who you are. It's genuine. But it's not a weakness. It takes great strength sometimes to be loving, especially to people who are difficult. It takes a lot of strength sometimes to see that. And it takes looking very, very deeply sometimes to see it in their eyes and in their heart. But you know it's there. You know it's underneath all that. So, for me, mindfulness means a lot of things. Practicing meditation means a lot of things. Learning how you deal with the world yourself first. Learning how to see the world for what it is, accept it for what it is in a loving way. It can be very disappointing sometimes, but disappointment is based on what we have already preconceived, what we wanted the outcome to be. If we attempt to have life be a certain way and it works, great, but when it doesn't, it doesn't, and we move on. We don't get attached to the disappointment. We're going to have disappointment, but don't get attached to it. And also there's another thing I wanted to say about that is that when we experience things, it's, for example, disappointment. It's not our disappointment. We don't own that. It just is a situation. It's not ours. It's just a situation. It's an experience. So, as same with laughter and joy, yes, they're wonderful experiences and we can savor them, but that's not our joy. It is a joy that we can experience. So, when we hang on to the negative things and we find ourselves saying, well, I'm unhappy and I'm doing, and we take ownership of it, we hold on to it when we use those words. Looking at a situation for what it is simply is an experience, good or bad or otherwise. It's just an experience. I'm listening to a lot of monks over the years, a lot of Rinpoches and Roshis talk about their students. And my teachers, I've been so fortunate to have the teachers I've had, and I've had many, which I love, each and every one of them, and I get something different from each and every one of them. But one of the things that I've heard all of them say at one point or another is, if you are in meditation and you have an experience, and it's a euphoric experience or a unique experience of, oh, I saw colors, or I felt I was floating, or I went down a path, and those are all really nice experiences, but that's all they are. And meditation doesn't have a goal. There's no goal in meditation of finding that place that's so blissful that I feel like I'm floating and staying there. It's nice when you do, and you should enjoy it if that happens. But if you're seeking it, then you're missing the point of meditation. So the experiences that come and go in our mind, let's see, an example, one of the examples that one of my masters said was, sit in the room. I came to them and I'm like, I can't stop thinking and I can't make my thoughts go away. And they laughed and said, of course not. But picture it as yourself sitting in a room, surrounded by walls, and in the walls are windows and doors, and they're all open. and you're sitting in this room. And the thoughts are coming and going. But as long as they're going and not staying, then you're meditating and you're allowing your thoughts to come and go. You're identifying the thought. You're seeing, yes, there's a thought, and I'm letting it go. I'm not going to get attached to it. I'm not going to start making a story. I'm not going to find myself 10 minutes later still on the same thought, watching it grow into something else. I'm going to notice that, yes, I'm having a thought, and yes, it's gone, and yes, I'm having another thought, and yes, it's gone. So the more you practice letting that thought go, the more you start to realize you're always going to have thoughts because you're human. But they're going to slow down a little bit, and they're going to calm down a little bit. And when they do come and go, they won't be hitting you so hard in the face. You won't be quite as attached to them when they show up. They'll be more or less floating by you. And when that starts to happen, you can start saying, I get that. But don't strive to hold on to it. Because when you strive to hold on to it, it becomes very elusive and you're right back where you started. So, meditation shouldn't have a goal. It should just be. In looking at your thoughts as they are, the world as it is. You can eventually start beginning to use meditation in a little deeper form, maybe by looking at specific instances in your life at a distance without getting involved, observing them instead of being involved with them. So I urge you to seek out a meditation center around you. If you're not here in Lake County and coming to my Monday night meditations, please seek out something near you where you can have a teacher help you with this and learn how to meditate and find a more peaceful life by letting go of things, not letting anger, fear control your life. And also learning how to sit with an open heart and approach life with an open heart. And you will be astounded at the joys that naturally come to you. And maybe they were there all along, you just didn't notice them. Maybe we were caught up in our fears so much that we didn't notice the joys that were there in front of us. So those are all thoughts to think about in meditation. How would it benefit you? Would this be good for me? I think so. It's been very good for me. I've also, in the past, have shared with you some of my personal experiences that I suffered with depression and I suffered with addictions, and I've had a lot of things that I've really struggled with over the years that I got caught up in, and I felt that this is part of who I am. But in reality, I learned through meditation that it's not who I am. It's just a situation that happened and I got caught up in. My mind was attached to it. I started to create stories. And I made more out of it than there was. But I didn't realize I was doing that. And in meditation, we learn that if we see the best in ourselves, we can often see the better in other people. I think it was, Nelson Mandela said, and I love writing down these quotes because they're awesome and I share them with you. Hopefully it'll help you too. Nelson Mandela said, "It never hurts to see the good in someone. They often act the better because of it." And I think that's such a strong statement, coming out of prison after all those years and still being able to see the better in someone and having the person react the better because of it. I think that's a beautiful thing. He was a wonderful human being that he could see, after all his suffering, he could still see with a loving, open heart the goodness in people. So there's so many people that are examples to us in our daily lives. He is one of them that we can look at. Mother Teresa is another. And when you talk about Mother Teresa, I urge you to look into her history. She wasn't just a nun. she would confront the Catholic Church and say, I know you have money and my kids need it. I'm feeding the hungry over here. You need to get some money to me. And she was notorious for really giving the bishops and archbishops and on up a very hard time. She was a very strong woman who truly believed in living Jesus' convictions of living in love. And what he taught was living in love, and she wanted to. She was a Franciscan, and she wanted to share what Jesus taught her, which was helping other people, feeding children, educating people, giving them a life that's at least comfortable enough to live in, giving them healthy food. It's a simple thing, and it really made her angry when the church would withhold money from her because she had nothing but good things to do with it. So she was a loving, open-hearted, beautiful woman who fought hard to help a lot of people. When people are in their the Buddhist monks are in their trainings, and they finally take their bodhisattva vows, which are simply the same vows that Jesus taught, which is to be loving and caring and to bring love and open heart to everyone you come in contact with, to put it in a nutshell. It's often easy to see that we separate ourselves from that. We think, well, these were religious people. We're not religious. But, I'm not religious. But I do believe in love. And I do believe that the people that are strong enough to make differences in the world by doing the things they do, I look up to them in awe that they have that strength and that determination to walk up these huge mountains and still keep that open, loving heart. And what I do is so simple comparatively. I run a meditation center in a nonprofit, and I try my best to offer good classes to people that will help them, hopefully, learn how to heal their life, learn how to let go of their anger and their pain, learn how to choose to live in an open, loving way. And I do my little bit, and I really urge people to contact me and let me know. Do you have a message you'd like to share? A positive message? Would you like to be on the show and share your positive message? I love having guests, and I love having guests at the center. And again, on November 8th, when Kevin shows up for that workshop, he's another one of those people that truly believes in his conviction to help people in not just the 12-step world, but people in general. Now, the 12 steps is usually associated with addictions because it is from the original AA traditions. But if we all applied these steps to our lives, we would come away with so much insight and an open heart. We would learn that we don't need to carry this burden of fear with us. We can open up to the joys that are there in front of us that we don't see because they're cloaked with this fear. So once you see that cloak and you begin to unveil it through love, you realize all this time it's been right in front of me, and I didn't realize because I was so afraid. I was afraid to open my heart up. Opening your heart up is difficult, but the repercussions from being loving is much more beneficial than the repercussions of living in fear. So what I like to tell people when they're learning their meditations and they're coming in and they're practicing meditations, what I like to say is, take the best parts of what you learned from your meditation, the practice of acceptance, seeing deeply, acting in love, and showing up for your life with a compassionate heart, and be the leader of peace. And you can do that just through meditation practice. And it sounds like you're going to, to conquer the world with this banner of love. But when you think about how simple it is, it's a matter of sitting on the cushion, looking at the truth of life, accepting life for what it is, and opening your heart and looking deeply into people, seeing the person that's truly underneath all that stuff they put out there, and talking to that person, the one who is just like you and me. If you authentically do that, people will see that you're being authentic, and they will often open up and talk equally as loving back to you. So I hope I made the message clear, specifically that it's very simple. And I've talked about an hour on love, and it sounds, when you put it all together, it can sound very convoluted and like a lot of work. But it's already in our heart, and it's already there, and we open it up when we're alone with a puppy or a kitten. We are in joy. We are laughing and giggling on the floor with them, acting like the children that we are inside. And we're very vulnerable and open, but we're happy. And everybody is that person. So if you remind yourself of that, you'll remind yourself to live with an open heart. So I hope I've helped you today. I hope you consider practicing some meditation, learning some mindfulness, how to be in each moment fully, how to put all those moments together to make up your life. Don't wait till your 40th reunion to realize that the stuff we've carried with us for all these years was for nothing other than anxiety. People who thought so-and-so didn't like me or so-and-so was a bully, and they have no idea. Really, was I mean to you in school? I have no recollection of that at all. So when you think about it, they were probably just going through a hard time in their lives. And that's something we need to do, is forgive people for being human. Forgive ourselves for being human, and just live in an open heart with loving kindness. So next week we will be back Monday at 3 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time. Thank you, LCM TV, for having us again this week. Thank you, firefighters, for putting out those nasty fires and keeping us safe. And in the meantime, be nice to yourself. Practice taking one day and just deciding to live in an open heart. See how it goes. And feel free to contact me at my phone, 707-279-6031, or my email, joni@apositivelight.com. Check out my webpage at www.apositivelight.com, and I have my shows archived on there and the calendar of events, all kinds of information. So thank you again, and we'll see you next week.